right now. I started recording, and I want to thank everyone for coming and to keep coming to the Big Hop events. And if you're interested in stepping up and wanting to be a speaker or share with your colleagues, just reach out to me. We're here to facilitate and support you in any way we can. And you may have a colleague interested as well, so pass that along. What I'd like to do is introduce Erin for connecting us with this wonderful speaker today, and she'll be introducing Christy. So Erin is our co-chair for Big Hop. So thank you, Erin.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Thanks so much, Lynn, and thank you to Lynn for setting up all of our I wanted to introduce Christy Gelway, who I've known for years. She's a former colleague. She previously worked here actually in San Diego. But currently, Christy Gelway is responsible for designing and executing global employee engagement and recognition programs for Qualcomm. These programs support family, financial, cultural, wellness, and personal development initiatives, just to name a few. It's not much, right? And campaigns through Qualcomm's global campuses, in short, family, finance, and fun. She also oversees cultural arts and philanthropy engagement in the San Diego community. Qualcomm's currently working to drive growth in mobile and capitalize on the opportunity of mobile intersecting a broader set of industries such as automotive, the Internet of Things, networking, and mobile compute. So Christy is working to keep their employees engaged and excited to execute. So we thought this was on topic because we are definitely going through some major organizational change management initiatives here on our campus. Just a little. Yeah. So we wanted to hear, because Mocha and I were talking about this earlier, sometimes when you're going through this large-scale organizational change management, you tend to feel like we're alone in this, but it's nice to know that there are other organizations that are going through a bit of tumult and turmoil as well. So with that, I would encourage you to welcome Christy Gelway.
Oops. How do I get this puppy to play? Can I click right over? No worries. Come over here. All right, so of course, coming from high tech, you don't know how to operate high tech. That's difficult. All right, welcome everybody. I'm Christy Gelway. That's one of our commercials that came out of our Korea office. So for any of you who needed a Korean translation, I was walking over here thinking I left UCSD shortly after the smartphone came into fruition, and I walked by the student services building, and there was this whole slew of college students looking at their phone, and I had that feeling like I have all the time, which is, it's great and it's not great, right? There's a lot of great things about technology, and there's a lot of things about technology that are challenging. So as Erin said, I'm right down the street, and when I left UCSD, I didn't really know very much about Qualcomm. I did know it wasn't the stadium. I still get questions about what it's like to work there, especially when the Chargers are gone. What do? It's just a lot of empty seats. Now that it's the San Diego County Credit Union Stadium, hopefully we'll get rebranded. But of course, years ago, Qualcomm bought the rights to that and did not do a lot of external marketing in the community. So that was sort of the one point of focus. If you're going to IKEA, you sort of go to Qualcomm Way, and if you go to the state Chargers, that's kind of Qualcomm. But we really didn't tell the story about what's inside the phone and how that really grew up in San Diego. It grew up right down the street, and it grew up in connection with a lot of things that happened here at UCSD. So this really is the birthplace, San Diego, of a lot of the technology that drives our phones, and is driving mobile in the next century. So in terms of Qualcomm's landscape, Aaron mentioned it's a global, my role is global. There's almost 30,000 people at Qualcomm, about 12, 13,000 are right down the street. We have 41 buildings. It feels like a campus. It feels like a college. We have cafes with interesting international food. We have gyms. We have people who roll in late in their pajamas. Those are our engineers. It feels very academic. A lot of smart people. It's one of the reasons why I love working there. I love working here at UCSD because there's so many smart people. I love working there. Again, I had a little interim job, midlife crisis, where I went into a startup for-profit business, and I skedaddled right back to a large environment with lots of smart people doing really innovative things. So a lot of things that we share with UCSD. And like I said, the vibe is also, it's very academic. There's a long history of the Jacobs family, Irwin Jacobs here, obviously Jacobs School of Engineering, tons of flow through with engineers working one-on-one with academics here. And most recently, Aaron and I are sort of strategizing about how to expand that, right? How do we get the population who works there, who may not be in specific engineering roles, to really take advantage and leverage all of the intellectual knowledge here at UCSD? How do we connect people? How do we keep that networking going? So over 30 years, it's been in San Diego. It's grown a lot. We're the #1 fabless semiconductor company, and we're the #1 in wireless semiconductors. This powers mobile communications, consumer electronics. Right now, the big hot buzzword is 5G, right? We're in 4G, we're moving to 5G, and so everything's going to be talking to each other. Your sprinkler, your Echo, your phone, your baby monitor, and we're all wrestling with that, right? Do we want that? Is that good? How do we feel about that? And there's a lot of mixed feelings as we even move into the ethics of technology moving forward. So a little bit about me. I always say that my life makes sense backward. I grew up in Minnesota, and I went to the University of Minnesota. But before I went to the university, I spent a year as a 15-year-old in Norway. I just took off and was an exchange student and learned a little bit about my heritage, my cultural heritage, and learned the language, and really didn't go to school very much because I didn't understand a word of Norwegian. Spent a lot of time knitting in class in Norway. And then I went to the University of Minnesota, and there was this incredible exchange program that went to India. And so this is obviously pre-Facebook, these old grainy photos. So went to India and worked on a developmental internship in Pune. I'm in Maharashtra, and then a little Marathi, and traveled around India and backpacked, and that was a really magical experience. Really changed my values about family and culture, and introduced me to spice. From Minnesota, we have salt, pepper, and dill. And India really opened me up to spice, to color, to really the magic of the world. Then I graduated from college with no jobs. Bush 1 administration, first Gulf War. So I take off and decide to go teach English in Taiwan. And so I fly to Taiwan. Welcome, everybody. There's a couple seats up front. And for you on the line, also welcome, but for the people in the room, they got cool presents. So next time you might want to come in first. So I went to Taiwan, I taught English for a year. I was the big blonde in the middle of a sea of Chinese folks, and I learned a little bit of Mandarin. Didn't make sense at all, right? Norway, India, Taiwan, doesn't even go together. But my current role at Q Living, I work with engineers from all over the world every day. I work with a lot of engineers from India and Pakistan. And I have these incredible connections and memories about mango pickle and Gujarati food and Jaisalmer, the walled city in Western India. And so when I ask them where they're from, they begrudgingly often say, I'm from India, like, of course. And then I say, but where in India? What state? Oh, tell me about that. Oh, I love Gujarat, or I love Kerala, it's beautiful. So my ability to engage with those people really came from my experience. Same thing with my little bit of Mandarin Chinese. Sometimes I break that up, right? When I'm on the phone with our offices in Shanghai or Xi'an. So that's really helped me. It's really helped me. I'm kind of masquerading as a middle-aged blonde HR lady, but I have all of these tricks, tricks in my pocket. And when the leadership says, we should really do another golf tournament, I say, no, we should really do a cricket tournament, right? So really starting to think about how we're representing the population that we serve. So I have this cool job. I'm called the Employee Engagement Manager. But what I like to say is my real role is more like Willy Wonka. I bring a lot of magic. I really try every day to bring a lot of magic to our employees, and not just our employees, but their families. So in thinking about what I would bring to the role, I've really worked in the last few years of thinking about what my personal strengths are and owning them and getting over some of that imposter syndrome, right? Who am I to do this job for this global company? And so I wrote down my personal strengths, and I was really proud of these, and I sent them to a mentor of mine, and she said, yep, that looks like you, except what's a wicked barnstormer? And I said, darn that autocorrect. I said, not barnstormer, brainstormer. So I use this just to remember what I bring to the table when people are like, that's an interesting position. So, you know, what makes that a good fit for you? Why do I come to work? I really thought about this, and with 30,000 people, it's hard to touch people across the board. So I really try to think in this dualistic way of how can I make large programs that maybe have sort of a shallower impact, but then how can I make small interactions with people that can really affect them and really change their lives? And so that's manifested in parenting classes, right? When someone is really struggling with a brand new baby. It's manifested in, I'm a really smart engineer, but I don't know anything about what's a money market fund, right? I'm brilliant, but I don't know some really basic things about the American finance system. To people trying to adopt a child and getting them connected with that, to just day-to-day things. How do I take the train to work? Or people who've had a crisis, right? So every day I think about what I can do. Big programs, but also small interactions. And my daily goal is to touch one person at work. So what can I do to just make one person's life there better? You know, what is somebody struggling with? What do they need to get connected to? What can help them, right, in their life outside of work? And so that's what really drives me on a day-to-day basis. When I got the job at Qualcomm, I was reading the book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And so this is what sits on my wall at work. And I really look at this and think about this on a daily basis. And so we could be the greatest company in the world, and we are in the Fortune 500 companies, but we need to be thinking about how we support our employees in as many aspects of their life as possible. And people often talk about how the millennials are asking for all these things, and I always push back on that and say, what, they're just saying it out loud? The rest of us want balance. The rest of us want to work from home on week. The rest of us, you know, we want to have that blending sometimes of work and leisure. We need to go online and find food, and then we can go back to our meetings. And that's, but we really sort of put it on our millennials as that's what they want, right? So really trying to think about how we support the whole person. So I wanted to go over some of our engagement program highlights and then talk about how we have worked in this crazy turbulent time of change. Well, that's what you guys have gone through. So one of the most recent things we did, we had 400 people come out in a huge float at the San Diego Pride Parade. This is something that we do every year. We have affinity networks. We have them for our LGBTQ group, we have them for our African American group. We have Latin Q. You can see the theme there. Qs show up in almost everything we do at Qualcomm. We're very proud of the Q. But we've sounds like someone on the line has a call. You want to put your phone on me? Who would you? Okay. One of the things we're most proud of is that at this Pride Parade, the leadership shows up. And so this is really important. I remember years ago here at UCESD running the Chancellor's 5K with with Chancellor Dimes, right? That was really meaningful when I would see him out there. He's much faster than I was even in my 20s, which is a little disappointing. But on the right there is my big boss. She's the SVP of HR. The guy in the beard is our CEO, Steve Molotov, who comes out every year and marches with parade. And then there's George Davis, our CFO, on the left, and the natty hat. So really happy to have them out in the community, representing, walking, being with employees. That's an awesome way to show support. We also have an internal news feed that goes out once a week. It's called, of course, QC News, and we do a couple things in this. We do something called You Outside the Queue and Feel Good Fridays. So Feel Good Fridays are stories that we bring in from around the world, and sometimes it's about someone's puppy, sometimes it's about someone doing something good, but really personal stories of how people are interacting, who they are as people outside of work. The last Feel Good Friday was about Q Kids invading Qualcomm offices around the world. And you all in the room have some robot fuel. We used the theme Robot City this year for our kids when they came to Qualcomm for a day. Just a little more diving into You Outside the Queue. Really interesting to see where people come from. You know, they're out hiking in India, they're snorkeling, they're camping. Really just trying to humanize our folks and spotlight them along the way. So I mentioned the Robot Fuel. This Q Kids program is our largest event of the year in San Diego. This was about 2 weeks ago, and I'm just, oops, it's restarting. Please hold.
Everyone's still on Zoom, so you might just have to launch.
Hold on, guys.
So just launch the.
I'll just share.
Yeah. It stopped sharing the PowerPoint. Zoom.
We'll get back there. That's where we are. Great. So as I said, 1,000 kids came to Qualcomm. We have to change the entire company from a corporate environment to a place for kids. And I don't know how many of you went to your parents' work as kids, right? You probably swiveled around the chair, played the copy machine, vending machine. That's not the expectation in the high-tech world. The expectation is that we really deliver an amazing program that connects to technology for those kids, because those parents are working so hard all the rest of the year. And in my more evolved self, I'm really compassionate to that. Sometimes it's hard because the expectations are so high. But I think about these people that grew up in small-town India, small-town Taiwan, small-town Korea. They work their whole life to get into this perfect engineering school, to get the best score, to get to the US, to get this job, to bring their family over here and send money home. And this is the one day out of the year where they can bring their child or their wife and really show them what they do and show them all that hard work and what it's doing in the world. And so that's the lens through which we plan these programs, and it's really rewarding to see those kids. We can, this is Suresh's daughter on the right. We had, you could make a robot, this thing spun around, and they built it from scratch. So really getting the sense of being a maker. At the top, we had the kids coloring these bags, and then we put these Ozobots, these little robots on them, and the robot interacted with the bags. So when it went over green, it went right, and went green. When it went over red, it turned red and spun around. Really just those sort of tactile hands-on. Let's get kids excited about STEAM. Always include art. We had the same, our city ballet was there with their beautiful ballerinas. So really comprehensive STEAM programming. And then you can see she's got, she's playing soccer with little robots in the bottom left. So that's really one of our flagship programs. We made a toolkit for that program and sent it out to all of our offices around the world. And they do smaller versions of that and sort of take our activities. And we're really proud of how we support our employees with that event. As I said, no longer golf, it's cricket and football, soccer. And so this year we opened up all 3 of our auditoria for the World Cup and full house. So as you can see here, I thought this was really telling. This was very Qualcomm, right? We're still at work, but we're watching the World Cup. We're still at work, watching the World Cup. 4 years ago, we actually did a World Cup where we flew in Qualcomm employees, created soccer teams from those employees, and played that out as a big soccer event. It was here, yeah. We actually had at the village. We housed all of the soccer players at the village here at UCSD, and then we played over at the polo field. So that was very exciting. There were a few injuries, work-related injuries. Workers' comp had to come into effect, but it was great. Really great broad-based support for soccer events. In the summer, we have something called QSOL, Qualcomm Summer on the Lawn. We bring in bands, we bring in food trucks, we subsidize the food trucks, so it's $1 or $2 to get some food. Take a break. So much of this is about permission, right? Many of you work so hard too. We've all been eating at Aldesco, right, recently. And sometimes what you just need is permission. We even have things called take a breaks, where we'll send out a broad-based email to 12,000 people and say, 12 o'clock, ice cream on the lawn, let's go. It's just tacit permission. Come on out, take a break, get some sun, right? It's not good for any of us to be working nonstop. Our Global Q Clubs, I'm really happy to say, this is a transplant. UCSD gave this to us. So my predecessor 10 years ago, Melanie Horn, she worked in residence life here at ERC. She came into the position before I did, and she said, hey, we have these cool student-run clubs. We should do that at Qualcomm. People are similar. People want to do things. So we now have over 250 clubs around the world. They're really interesting. Some of them are soccer clubs. Some of them are hiking clubs. Some of them are beer brewing clubs, cigar appreciation clubs. One club in Boulder just takes hula hoops and takes breaks and goes out in the middle and takes a break with the hula hoop. I think they also incorporate kazoos. And so what we say to them, you can see Toastmasters down in the bottom left. We say, here's $600 from the company for the year. We need 5 of you to be engaged, 5 or more. And then you guys go, do your thing. Some people just put an espresso machine in the common area and have a coffee club, right? But it's really self-driven, because if my manager is not giving me feedback and thanks and good feelings, what can I do? What kind of agency can I have? And we really see this in our employees of like, yeah, I'm just going to start in Singapore, we have like a fashion appreciation club, and they share makeup tips. Great. So those expense reports are always fun to approve. We have the system so it doesn't go to their manager for sets of makeup. It comes directly to me to approve. So I'm always approving cigars and food. So this is just the Shanghai Running Club, and it's always great. I do these orientations for these clubs. It's something that I could put on like a video and just have an automated orientation, but I don't. At 8 o'clock at night, I talk to one of these people in Shanghai and say, thank you so much, Wade, for starting this club. It's so great. You work so hard. I know you and your colleagues work so hard, and I think it's so great that you're giving all of your colleagues a chance to get out of the office and take a break. We as a company support that. That's why we want to give you funding, and that we really, really appreciate you. So he's sitting on the other side of the world, but I have that little moment, right? To be the good side of HR. We all know that there's another side of HR, you get in trouble, but we really want to give that, just that little bit of encouragement. We also engage through contests. So we do different kinds of contests. This was a contest where people would put their picture in and then 3 words that describe themselves. And we did this for the 30th anniversary. So you can see here Siddharth, he's in Raleigh with his new baby. And his 3 words that describe him are new dad, sort of cheated, sleepless, and dedicated. Right? So he was able to put that there and be part of our larger mosaic. Then we took all of the words and made a word cloud and put it on a shirt. And I don't know how you can see it, but really interesting to see the through lines. People are adventurous, friendly, passionate. Interesting to see the self-identifying features. Let's see if this will play. Maybe not. And then as you submitted your picture, it would go live and find a place. And then there would be certain stars where if it landed on a star, you'd win some kind of tech prize. We also have great technology in the phones, so we do photo contests, and those go around the world, and then sometimes this is one of our India offices, where they just did a beautiful display of these photos to celebrate and show them off. We have Acute Cares, that's our volunteer arm, where we send people out. They have local budgets that they can deploy, but they also do service work in their local communities. And so while we have a big philanthropic footprint here in San Diego, and the Jacobs were really a big driving force behind that, right, of leading the way and showing that. We do a lot of things more quietly. We do a lot of disaster support, and then we do a lot of very specific support in the towns and cities where we have offices. So if you read the news in the last few months, Qualcomm's been going through a little bit of change. We tried to buy another company to double in size, and we were very excited about that. And then we got into a little hot water with trouble with Apple. And then out of nowhere, we were part of a hostile takeover attempt. Broadcom company tried to come in and just take over the whole company. So that got our adrenaline going a little bit. We didn't know what that was all about. And at the last moment, President Trump issued a presidential order to stop it. So I was getting tweets all day, or texts all day, Trump, save your job. Very strange to get that text. So that happened, and then we were excited to move forward again to get that other company, and then we got caught up in the global trade war. China said, no, I don't think we want to approve that. You're giving us some trouble. I don't think we want to go forward with that deal. So in the middle of all that, we had some major cost reductions. We had a pretty substantial reduction in force in San Diego, and so we had to say goodbye to a lot of our colleagues. We had to do more work with fewer resources. It was a lot of tumult, right? And this is a place where people have worked for many years. It's kind of like UCSD. Oh, I've been here for 7 years, 2 months, 3 years. Lots of that at Qualcomm, right? Lots of people really loyal, been there for a long time, don't have any other professional experience, and they were suddenly faced with a lot of change. And so what we decided to do was we decided to listen. So we held listening sessions. We just started reaching out into our community both in San Diego and around the world. And we said, hey, we know you're having a hard time. We want to just listen to you. We want to hear what's going on with you. This is a safe space. One person talks at a time. No such thing as a bad idea. Really sitting and listening to what was going on with people as the first line. We also wanted to think about some actionable things that we could deploy in a short period of time to support people as they struggled with all of this change. It was really interesting, the themes that came out of this. We had 70 themes and 21 sub-themes. So what did people want? They wanted some meeting hygiene. They wanted to not just keep going to meeting after meeting after meeting. And the other company that we were considering acquiring, they actually had a rule that if you don't have an agenda, I don't have to show up to your meeting, right? So that was a big shock to our kind of consensus-driven, looser California. So we have started to have better meeting hygiene. We traditionally start at like 7 after the hour. We're kind of a late swaying group. We've gotten a little bit better at getting there on time, not wasting people's time. People need more balance. They're stressed, right? They need more resources, more flexibility. There's some piloting going on of like 1 day a week work from home. So we're starting to move past those old models into some more flexibility. People are nervous about that, but we're starting to move that way. Camaraderie, I talked about permission. People just need permission to say no. We're not a really big company to say no, I can't do that, right? I need help. Team builders, offsites, a lot of requests for that. People want more information. It's really confusing when there's all this change. We really have to over-communicate and be transparent and give people the messaging right away. It's much worse to find stuff out on Google or find stuff out from the news than it is to find things out through your internal communications chain. We want to understand our brand. I don't know if any of you have seen, there's a lot of Qualcomm stuff, stories in the community of what we created and what we invented, trying to get our story out there. And we want to have that same connection within the company so that we understand how to connect to the brand. We know when we can tweet, when we can't tweet, how to share the best part of Qualcomm for the rest of our culture. And then a lot of people want rotation. I want to try a different part of HR. I want to see what someone else does in another role. I have a good friend who's an engineer, and she's like, I'll take you around for the day to my lab. That's really important for me to see where she is and how she works. And so we're working on formalizing that. And then our operations model, just thinking about how our leadership works. What's our strategy? What's our strategy as a company? What's your strategy as a department? What's your personal strategy? Like thinking back to sort of what's your personal mission statement? Why are you here? Why are you showing up? What's your team doing? Really being thoughtful about that. And then we ask some questions, and again, we obviously like these sort of conceptual word maps. And so this one I thought was really interesting. This one is the one that keeps me up at night. The question was, what does recognition mean to you? Look how small monetary is, right? Versus thank you. It really doesn't sink in for people. And I think that it's kind of like I talk about it a lot of the time with my girlfriends at Valentine's Day. And they really would just like some flowers. They really want flowers. It's not that hard. $30, $40, and some of them, their boyfriends or husbands or partners, they just don't do it. It's not that hard, and it's so effective, right? Not sure what that is. There's something there that's a disconnect, whether it's I don't want to be like everybody else, or I don't want to seem cheesy, or I don't know how to do it. But that thank you is so critical. And that's what people were asking for. Celebration too, celebrating milestones, celebrating successes, catching people doing something good, right, instead of catching people doing something wrong. Opportunities, flexibility to show up, flexibility is bigger than money. People want the ability to work the way that they want to work. This is another question we ask. The question was, what does developing your career mean? Right? Huge, training, I want training. I want skills, I want to grow, I want to learn. Mentorship is in there, but it's really about getting people out into different environments where they can build their skills. And then the last question we asked was, what does inclusive communication look like? People just want to know. They don't want to be in the dark. They want the information. They want it right away. Even if you don't know, even if you say, we don't really know what's going on, but we're telling you we don't know, is better than nothing. Right? And so just building that in. So we've changed our cadence of internal communications to address that. So I was thinking about this business excellence community of practice. You all sit in different parts of this organization. You're all here probably because you want that training, right? You want to be growing yourself, growing your skills, networking. Maybe you just need a little break, permission, a little brain break. But I was thinking about what I can offer in terms of what people can do. And I've been working with Dr. Bob Nelson. He's an engagement professional. He's actually the co-author on the book that some of you got. And he did his PhD on recognition and engagement and what it is, what's the one thing that drives engagement. If someone's good at recognizing and good at engaging people as a manager, what is it? Is it because of how they were raised? Is it because of their generation? Is it because that they've taken classes? Is it because they just figured out they get better work out of people? Like, what is it that makes people good at this? And he studied it, and I'm sure he did lots and lots of research, but his answer was really surprising to me. And the answer was whether or not you, as an individual, own, where you feel responsible for recognizing and thanking people in your spirit. You can't say, well, my boss doesn't thank me, or company's not giving any raises, or, that's just not my style, I'm an introvert, right? If you own it, if you feel like from where I sit in my organization and my sphere of influence, I'm going to thank people. I'm going to catch them doing something good. I'm not going to be as critical. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to really pay attention to the people in my sphere of influence. That's what makes a difference. And what can you say? Well, I'm not going to sit very high in the organization. I don't supervise anybody. I don't have a team. I love this is one of my favorite charts, probably because it's so messy. I'm a little messy. But you can be an expert wherever you sit in an organization. This is a map of how work gets done in an organization. And down here on the bottom, this is probably one of your admin clerks, or I like to think of this as Dale, the security guard in my building, right? Dale is, he doesn't have a lot of status in the organization. Dale knows almost every person's name who walks through that door every day. Thousands of people. Every day he tells me a different Reader's Digest joke. Not always my favorite, but amazing, right? He feels responsible from where he is to make these connections, you know, and I'm not sure where they all go to the CEO, but these are the people, these are the nodes, and I've always known that. When I worked here at the university, there were places I could call, you know, call Roxanne, call Aaron, right? There was energy there. They were connected. Stuff was happening. There were other places I would call, and people would say, "Oh, that's not my job. You know, I only have a couple of years till I retire." Oh, right? It's just like walking through mud. So from wherever you are, you can make a difference in engagement, in recognition in the company. The first day I started at Qualcomm with my orientation, the guy who led it, he ended with this quote. That was my launch pad into my career at Qualcomm 5 years ago, and I continue to think about that quote, right? Be that person. When you feel like you want to be snarky and gossipy or negative, turn around. So I have some time for Q&A, and then I have one more little activity, but I have a couple of questions that people ask me a lot, so I'll kick off the Q&A. And the first one is, how did you get that job? It sounds awesome. And I come back to a liberal arts education, folks. I mean, I'm a humanities major. What are you going to do with the humanities major? Awesome things! I'm going to do awesome things. Why did you go traipsing all over the world? I don't know. No one helps me a lot every day. Higher education, working here at UCSD, super valuable, right? International, global, smart. This place really grew me as a professional, and I owe that gratitude to UC San Diego. So it was a great 10 years. There was a little time off in the middle there for kids, but that was the time I spent here really growing up as a professional, and I owe that gratitude. And the other thing, people say, what's the best program you do? You do so many interesting things. You know, what's the magic program that really just makes or breaks everything? Beer and a band. I have done hours and hours of planning and engagement programs. Literally, the one time I brought beer and a band out to the lawn, the CEO came down. People talk about that for months and months. So I should have just, followed the sun god to that answer. I should have known. But I think that speaks to a little bit of fun, a break, permission, time to talk to each other. So I'll take some questions, and then I have one more quick activity. Yes.
So you have a fairly large budget from the sounds of it. Are you required to report back to anyone on how that's being used or the effectiveness of it? I mean, do you have metrics, or is this just a program that Qualcomm believes in?
Great question.
Christy, can you repeat the question?
Sure. The question was, wow, it looks like you have a lot of money to run these programs. And then ROI. What's your ROI? Who's measuring this, right?
Or are you required to?
Or are you required to? Actually, my budget is really small. That's one thing I learned from UCSD. I learned how to make things with tape and string and 2 pencils, right? We do a ton of co-sponsorships. So we'll bring in authors, for example, and we'll just buy books, and then they'll do a speech instead of paying them an honorarium. We do a ton of philanthropy in the community. So we give money to the symphony as part of our corporate giving budget, and then I bring the symphony in and do programs, and they do that for free, the opera as well. So relatively, it's a very small budget. We do pulse surveys, quarterly pulse surveys on engagement and work-life balance, and we've done some conjoint studies. So would you rather have more money or more fear demand, which, you know, trying to measure what employees want. We're not really required. People ask that a lot. We do surveys after events, and we have a lot of small data, but we don't have a lot of big data. And I think this is an issue in the field. I also think that it's really easy to get pigeonholed as the fun people, right? And I really have worked to bring more heft to that role and not just be the fun people, but really be thinking about the whole person outside of work. How can you bring your authentic self to work? So, you know, I wish I could say I had hard and fast metrics on how to engage people. We have some things that come back from our pulse surveys, but I cannot necessarily say that my program moved the needle on that activity. Yes, Moshe?
So do you do this globally, or are there other units like you across different units of Qualcomm?
So the question is, do I do this globally, or are there other units across Qualcomm? So I have a team of 3, and that is 300% larger than it was. I used to be a team of 1, and my mandate was really to deliver globally. Very hard to do. So that's why these programs like Q Club, I do an orientation, you go. Our volunteer, here's some budget, here's some t-shirts, you go. So now we've moved because our HR model has completely changed and we have new org charts and things are shifting. We've moved to a regional model where we have 4 regional HR leads and they deliver to their down chain. And for the first time, people have pieces of my job written into their job. Because there's some awesome people out there, back to that sort of circle, who are like, I'm gonna throw a party, I'm gonna do something cool, I'm gonna do a volunteer event. But unless it's built into the hardwiring of the job, it's really hard to execute on. So it's being built into the hardwiring of the job description, and we are consistently sending out toolkits. One page is, you wanna do a Q-Kids, here's activities, here's branding, here's some videos, go. You wanna do International Women's Day, here's some speakers, here's how to run a photo contest, here's how to do a movement activity, go. So yeah, UCSD helped me a lot with that. Small budget, big bang. Yes.
So as you set up sort of this culture of engagement with events and things, in times of tumult, do you experience any sort of dip or hesitation, like folks start to feel, if I attend this thing, I might be the next one that gets cut, things like that. So how have you addressed that, or did you experience a lot of that hesitation after certain events?
That's a great question. The question was, when you go through times of tumult and you're holding these events, do you experience a dip in attendance because people are thinking about optics, right? If I show up, I'm just messing around. So we had a little bit of a break in some of our activities. We slowed down, and these things are very cyclical. I tried to get ahead of it, but the leadership freaks out and says, no, we can't do anything. And then they're catching up a month later saying, where's the fun? We need to bring the fun back. So I try to keep it continuous, but maybe not as flashy, right? We didn't fly people in to play soccer from all over, but we did show the soccer. We did offer snacks. We did that. We try to get leadership to message the things that we're doing, right? So if your boss's boss says, hey, come out to the lawn and take a break, that you probably will, and won't feel like so hesitant to do that. We also really try to connect the fun to our technology. So this week we're doing tech tours where we have demos happening all over campus. So we have fun and we build in food and things like that. But it's really about sharing with each other, like, what are we inventing? What are we doing? Great value to that. So back to sort of this just fun fluff stuff, really trying to change that attitude. But we had a 20% reduction, and I've been seeing, interestingly, at the beer and band, no fewer people. That one's staying there. But like our Q-Kids Day, it was harder for parents to take a whole day off. I think there was definitely a little bit of hesitation. Yes.
Like Qualcomm, I'm Brad Sollenberg. I'm one of the executive committee members for VCOP, and like Qualcomm, we have so many talented people that are members of this group. My kind of ultimate goal is that Lynn one day needs to institute an intake because we have so many people wanting to share knowledge. That's one of the goal to this. So as an engagement manager, how do we kind of, I guess, prompt people, just kind of, turn up the gas on the pilot light to really get people engaged and maybe want to share their knowledge?
So are you saying, so the question was how do we get people to share their knowledge and how do we sort of light a fire under that? Are you saying like this kind of presentation or just in general?
Yeah, either, showing off a little bit of what they've done in their area to really exceed, or maybe there's kind of a specialized knowledge that they want to kind of develop on campus here. Just like you have those $600 to start with clubs. And, people, really feel empowered. They think about it as going to their manager, and you kind of had to shift gears for them to say, no, this is you taking ownership of it. Here's how you do it.
Yeah, we kind of hacked the system that way, right? I think there's a little bit more of a barrier to entry of standing up here doing this. I don't think everybody wants to do that. People don't even want to sit in the front row, we do things called like tips and tricks, really informal. Come and do some tips and tricks, and that's basically like, hey, did you know how to do a VLOOKUP in Excel? Hey, did you know that you can back end the people thing and find out how many people are in each office? Really low barrier to entry, but tips and tricks to where people, especially if they're introverted and not speakers, can feel safe. And I think you need to be moderating that and asking people to come to the table. But I think getting people out of their office, I swear we just all are so myopic in where we sit, and the person 3 doors down is working on the same kind of program. We just get out of our office to talk to people. I think really, I encourage my team, you are in the office too much. You need to get out and across the company and share best practices. So that's coffee, that's tips and tricks, that's speeches, that's getting together and watching a TED Talk, right? You could just be that, right? If you have people that are shy. We really crave that as people. So I don't have a magic one, but I do feel like our group moves throughout the organization a lot, and that helps. Yes, motion.
To that point, it seems like the challenge comes into play where managers, if they're not bought in, and the employees who report to managers are not going to, they're not going to be as open to going to these things. How do you address that where you're getting buy-in from that manager?
Yeah, how do we get buy-in from managers? I mean, I think that has to be data-driven, and there is a lot of data on that about losing retention, employees, attrition. They're not happy, they're not engaged. We do not have mandatory manager training except for sexual harassment at Qualcomm, and people in our development group are like, we need mandatory training on this. Because it's not only style, but cultural, generational. So, I mean, if I were Queen, I think I would have mandatory classes on engagement and role playing and really showing that if people do feel engaged, they're going to deliver. It's a business case. There's a business case to be made, but very, very difficult to do. Erin.
So I'm going to ask her for me. Has anybody read Making Work yet? So read it. It's going to be a book club. It's going to be a Peacock book club. But a couple of us were lucky enough to see Shola Richards speak, and he was amazing. He's the author, and his whole theme with that book is positivity. So in discussing that book, somebody asked me, and I thought this was a really good question. We talk about bring your whole self to work, but then Shola's saying be positive, and she said, what if I don't feel positive? I'm going through, this is a lot of change, and when I come to work, sometimes I don't feel so positive, but I want to bring my whole self to work. So how do you address that organizationally?
That's a great question. The question was, how do you bring your whole self to work and are positive with that self you're bringing? You almost like with a layup. So one of the things that is in here, someone's gonna get it, is be vulnerable. I just had a person in crisis at work, and she shared something with me, and I shared something back about a personal experience I had earlier in my career. When you're vulnerable, And you have to be authentic. You can't be BSing and being positive. So I think that helps. I think we are very good at that as people. Especially if we're really ambitious and climbing, we don't want to show any weakness, but I think being vulnerable with people in a safe space can help. That being authentic, true, honest. Every woman who comes back to work with a new baby, I would say, it's like a hand grenade into your work life and into your relationship. And if you want to know the truth, come talk to me, because it's really, really hard instead of, that's amazing, it's all amazing, right? I think people don't want to hear people, they're struggling, right? So I'm like, if you want the real story, it's really hard. Let's talk about it. So I went to an engagement conference and there were so many incredible ideas and I couldn't keep them up straight. So I put them in the little tickets. I'm gonna send you guys each out with one. I took the weird one out because I thought it was weird. There was a guy from a snack company, a CEO from a snack company, and his tip was, when you see a colleague, any colleague, think in your mind, I love you. And so my husband said, I don't like that one, don't ever share that one. Now, I'm not sure if I have enough for everybody, but these are just things to take back. They're just little pieces. Sometimes I pull one out. Maybe we can have a couple people read. What did you, several people get?
Plan an opt-out Friday.
Plan an opt-out Friday, so that's that flexibility. How about you and the beautiful red necklace?
Use yes, and instead of yes, but.
Yeah, use yes and instead of yes, but, right? Keep the conversation positive. How about you?
Ask your direct report, tell me what you were working on and how can I help you?
This one is radical, right? Radical. And we forget to do it. Hey, what are you working on? How can I help you? Not what are you working on, I'm trying to catch you. How can I help you? What barriers can I take?
Start with questions. You should be asking 80% and telling 20%.
Ooh, I've worked with some faculty here, and medical faculty especially. Talk less, ask more, 80-20. We all do that.
Check in daily with your direct report.
Right? Sometimes we forget. Just check in. Every time I see my director walk past, I'm like,
Make sure people speak in the same proportion in you.
Make sure people speak in the same proportion of me. It's really important. We hit this too. In fact, we've got all these people on the line. I'm sure there are hundreds of you. But we, especially when we have conferences on the phone, we sometimes forget.
I'm gonna say that because it's everybody's responsibility to manage that, right? Because we have leaders who have a lot to say, and it's everybody's responsibility in the room to like get it back on track to where we're allowing everybody to participate. Sorry.
Yeah, I think
Well, we have faculty, right?
Yeah.
We got a lot to say, but so does everybody else.
Yes, I think you interrupted Erin. I think she had something to say, right? I need to
Yeah,
add
redirection.
right? Redirection.
Beware of in-group and out-group dynamic.
Yes, in-group and out-group, okay. Everybody wants to be in the in crowd, right? But it's really scary when you find a new team and everybody's going to lunch and they didn't ask you. And they didn't do it on purpose, but it just doesn't feel good.
Give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yes, don't think people are out to get you. Maybe, they're having a hard time at home. You have no idea what's going on.
Hire for empathy, train for skill.
Hire for empathy, train for skill.
Look for opportunities to learn from each other, e.g. 3-minute lightning talks.
Yeah, 3-minute lightning talks. Here's something that you don't know about me that I do really well. 3 minutes, go. Right? Back to your question. Lightning talk.
Send personal thank you cards to home addresses.
Yeah, some companies have been sending things home to people's families or partners and saying, hey, thanks for sharing Jim with us. He's really bringing a lot of work in the office. That's great.
No computers, phones in meetings, be present.
You guys were great today. This was not a Qualcomm group. People were not.
Remember, if you're a leader, that your words and actions carry weight.
Yes, I see this a lot with younger, earlier managers. They don't realize that who they talk to or who they don't talk to, people watch their words. If they stay late, if they email on a Sunday at 10 o'clock at night, it kind of stirs people up. If you manage people, when you walk into a room, you have weight. Grace Walsh used to teach 2 years ago. She was such a great mentor. She really drove that home for me. It's as you become a leader, really think about what you're saying and how people perceive you. Do we have anyone?
Boldly try new things.
Boldly trying to think.
Have meetings to discuss gratitude.
Have meetings and discuss gratitude. We just recently had a meeting at work where I said, hey, this is a great time. We need to do our own thank you, how are you doing in our own department? So let's each go around and say thank you to someone on the team publicly about something they have done. It was hard for some people. Some people just hold that really tight.
Move conversations from me to me.
Move conversations from meeting to lead, back to Erin's point.
Try a walking meeting.
Any of you guys do walking meetings? That's great.
Be human, be vulnerable, ask for help.
So that was back to be human, be vulnerable.
Grant unexpected rewards.
Grant unexpected. Robot people. Did you guys see it in the back or did you run out? Okay.
Default to openness internally and secretly externally.
This was interesting. Default to openness internally and secrecy externally. This was just talking about companies that they keep secrets from each other, which they shouldn't. You should in your team be really open, but maybe you keep a little bit of boundary around what you're doing, especially if there's IP or proprietary.
Be the one to go first.
Be the one to go first. Oh, and then we ran out. Okay. Well, that's what I have. I'm here, Christy Gilroy. I'm so pleased that you guys took some time out of your day. I have business cards. I'd love to talk more with you. As I said, I owe a debt of gratitude to this campus. Thank you so much, Erin, for inviting me, and Lynn for all the arranging. I really appreciate it. And Monica for all of your technical skills. You're hired for Fulton IT department.
So we wanted to thank Christy. We have just a little gift, reminder of UCSD, your JCCT. So, but thank you. Tell everybody all schools fighting back to me.
I